Do you have to follow a storyline? There is a storyline to the games, but they tell the lore through like... The lore is deliberately left kind of vague, but then it's told through like item descriptions and stuff. So like if I go look at like the equipment I'm wearing, like free, so if I show item info, garb of Frida, sister of the painted world, a light blue dress sewn with thick fabric. After renouncing everything, Frida discovered a people that she wished to protect and assumed the precise form that they yearned for. Or like this one, you know, Wilhelm's armor. This Hollow Knight who served the three sisters who founded the Sable Church was particularly loyal to the eldest and was known as a cold-blooded hangman. So then you get like the story sort of behind things. The essential plot is in the first Dark Souls, the world starts with dragons like ruling everything. There's like immortal dragons, and then eventually, after a long amount of time, fire is invented. And then once fire is invented, people take these big souls, you know, and they get really powerful with these big souls from the very first fire. Is this a mimic? The first fire ever gives people this like huge amount of power. And so they all get really powerful from the fire. And then the people that get the first fire thing become like, kind of like gods, I guess, sorta, you know? They're called lords, but basically same thing, you know? They kind of become gods. Anyway, eventually, as all things, you know, all good things must come to an end, eventually the fire starts to go out. And the first fire starts to go out, and since this is kind of the source of power for everything, and the reason why like everything's going well right now, having that fire go out is kind of a bad time. Yeah, the fire going out kind of fucks everything up a little bit. This is all the first game, so we're on game 3 of course, but this is the first game. So the protagonist of the first game, the basic story is, you kind of start out as like a regular, like just a little guy, you know? And as you progress through the game, you keep killing all of like, you know, you're kind of like Kratos from God of War, you know? You kind of like Kratos. As you progress through the game, you keep killing the like former, you know, big gods and stuff, you know? And as you kill them, you kind of, you like absorb their souls and stuff, and you get more powerful. And then eventually, you make your way to the original big ruler, big god that ruled everything at the start, this guy Gwyn. And he's protecting the first flame. And he's, by the time you meet him, kind of like a husk. He's like a husk of a man, you know? He's not really like the same great mighty god that he once was. He's like a husk of a man, you know? And you kill him as well. And at this point, you've become so powerful and so strong from all of your countless, you know, you're just gonna lower this, it is. All your countless victories and stuff, you know, your countless killing peoples, that you're presented with two choices, which is essentially to use your body as fuel for the fire so that it doesn't go out. This is the canonical end of the first game. So by the time you get to the fire that's getting put out, and then you've become so powerful that you yourself burn your body as fuel for the fire so that the fire doesn't go out, so that everyone can keep pretending that everything is okay, basically. You can keep the world going as it is right now. Because if the fire goes out, who knows what's going to happen, you know? It's going to be a new era. So that's the canonical ending of the first game. There's another ending of it, which is you choose not to relight the fire with your body, and instead you put the fire out and you rule over the world in darkness. That's the other ending. It's two different endings, like, so you just have a choice at the end of the game. Basically, it's weird. There's these serpents called, I forget their names, but like Framped and Camped or something like that. And one of the serpents is like the good guy, you know? The good serpent who wants you to use your body as fuel. And the other serpent is like the bad serpent who wants you to put the fire out. Have I done both endings? In the first game, yes, but it doesn't really change anything. Like the game doesn't, you know, it doesn't change. It's just the ending of the game. It's different. By the time you get to, in the second game, the second game takes place in an entirely like alternate world, or so it seems. It seems that the second game takes place in an alternate world with different characters and everything being very different. The world is different. However, if you play the New Game Plus version of the when you beat the game, you get to play New Game Plus, and they actually add different things in New Game Plus or whatever. But if you play New Game Plus in the second game, what you start to realize is that the bosses in the second game, even though the world looks different and the bosses all seem to be different, that they end up actually having the same kind of souls as the major bosses in the first game. The implication being that it is actually the same world after all. It turns out it was the same world the whole time, and that this is the progression of the world, and that the ending is once again a choice to keep the world as it is or to let it like move on. But it's very ambiguous in the second game that that's what's occurring. That is what's occurring, but it's ambiguous, sort of like it's very not clear until you actually, Anyway, the third game makes things a lot less ambiguous, because in the third game, the premise is that the situation that happened in the first game, where you use your body as fuel for the fire, has at this point been happening over and over and over and over and over, and we have no idea how long it's been happening. But this chain of just people going to the fire and burning themselves and using their body as fuel for the fire has been happening on a loop for years and years, hundreds of years probably, maybe, who knows, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. At this point, nobody even knows how long it's been happening, but it's been happening. And so the new decision they've made at this point, in order to relight the fire again, they actually have raised from the dead previous lords who already burned themselves as fuel. So a bunch of the people that already burned themselves as fuel have been basically brought back from the dead in order to do it a second time. However, as you might expect, they're not too excited to do this. They're actually not very excited to burn themselves as fuel a second time around. So all of them say, fuck this, and they decide not to do it. And they say, fuck it, we're not going to do that anymore. There's also a little bit other lore that I forgot to mention, which is the king of the city's called like Lothric. The prince of Lothric was intended to be groomed to be burnt as fuel. However, unfortunately, him and his older brother are both kind of not really, well, you'll see when we eventually get to them. But neither of them were really good for it, if that makes sense. The younger brother can like barely walk, and the older brother is like mute and can't speak. I think he has like legs that don't work and stuff. So initially they've been grooming the prince to be the sacrifice, but that didn't really pan out. So option B was sacrifice the other people that they brought back from the dead, but that didn't work out either. So option C is that they got a bunch of people like you to go hunt down and kill the former lords who burnt themselves. You gotta go hunt down and kill them in order to do the same thing again.